I worked in a statewide position in mental health. I would go to Chicago on many occasions to meet with the director. And you always encountered her administrative assistant. She was an amazing woman, and I swear she floated. She didn't walk. Well, I learned that there was this sense of peace about her, no matter what was chaotic. And she would say to me, "Lee, be in the flow."
Hello, I'm Vanessa Ferguson, Assistant Director at the Hoagland Center for the Arts. Joining me today for Seize the Day is artist Dominic Cellini. Dominic, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here, no problem.
Excellent. Well, we're going to talk about art today, and I am so amazed by what you can do with a blank piece of paper. When you are creating a piece of art, what's going on in your head?
Well, it depends what I'm drawing. It could be anything from, I feel compelled to draw this character. I have a mood and a scene I want to convey, or I have a deadline. I really got to get this done.
I know that.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine when you are creating a piece of art that it's very easy to become engrossed in what you are creating. So when you're creating, do you tend to lose a sense of time?
I can. Obviously, can all depend on how you feel about what you're drawing. There are some times where it is just work, and those can be a little harder. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. But when you're really in the zone, just probably the closest athlete metaphor I could use. When you're in the zone and you're really into a drawing and you see it coming together as you work on it, it is easy to lose sense of time. You almost just don't want to stop for anything. Uh, you're so excited to see it all coming together. It's the best feeling when it's
Right.
going well.
Absolutely. And to do what you do would take a lot of concentration for me. I would imagine that when you first started to create art, you had to think more about what you were doing in terms of
Mhm.
lines and color. And now does it just kind of flow, or when you're working, do you still have to think about those specific things?
Well, it depends. There are certain steps in my process that are a little more, I don't want to say tedious or monotonous. That makes it sound like I don't enjoy it. But let's say I'm making a comic or something, and I have most of my line work, my roughs all sketched in. The rough line work is all there. Those are the sketches I do before I do the refined line work on top with ink pens or digital inks. And during that process, you're mostly tracing over your rough drawing. So for those periods, I can put on music, I can listen to a podcast or something, like some of the ones you guys do. Uh, those I can multitask a little more for. But if I'm really challenged with something, like let's say a certain pose is giving me a lot of trouble, a character running, maybe there's a hand that's tricky. uh, in those instances, I still have to really concentrate. But as long as you know your process well, um, a big part of what we do is relying on photo reference and whatnot. All visual artists do. If I have good photo references handy and I've done my thumbnail sketches, which are the little preliminary doodles we do before we put the whole composition together, before we get to the details, then the process is a lot more. How would I put this? The process is easier, is basically how I would put it.
I see. Well, I maybe someday I'll work up to that, but for now, I'm just going to dabble in art. I think for the sake of my mental health. And speaking of mental health,
Mhm.
I know that sometimes when we are creating, we tend to feel a sense of peace. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about that. And so when you are creating a piece of art, is it a healing experience for you, or is it therapeutic in any way?
Well, I would say it's very fulfilling. It's very satisfying. I'm very fortunate to do the kind of work, especially in artwork, because there are all kinds of forms of art, acting and whatnot. But the really satisfying thing about illustrating is that you can just make something from nothing. And at the end of the day, if all goes well and it's productive, some days are better than others. You have something physically to look at, something you can see right in front of you and say, I did that, I made that. There was nothing before I did this. Those little, those little achievements really, they're really satisfying and fulfilling, even if it's a small one. Even if you just fixed a problem, you're like, oh, this expression was giving me trouble. I couldn't get it quite down. Now I got that person's likeness. Now I have that pose down. Being able to see it in front of you and just have created something is, yeah, it's very satisfying. So in that sense, um, having that constant, like, rewarding result definitely keeps me feeling useful, keeps me feeling um, occupied. Like you said, it is therapeutic in a sense.
I see. Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with being proud of yourself and satisfied with what you've created. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for talking to us a little bit about art on Seize the Day. And I hope
Mhm.
that we can all take some time to create and clear our minds and just have some satisfying thoughts for ourselves. So thank you so much, Dominic, and thank you all for watching.
Thanks very much to Vanessa Ferguson and Dominic Cellini for that great discussion on how he makes his art. Thank you for tuning into this edition of Seize the Day, and we'd like to encourage you to make sure you like the Facebook page for both the Hoagland Center for the Arts and Memorial Behavioral Health. Also, these are very difficult times for all arts organizations, and if you're so inclined, we'd really appreciate it if you go to our website at hcfta.org and make a donation to our COVID Relief Fund. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition. Go out there and seize the day.